Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win. I don't want no fake love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path, if you want it bad. I'm gonna show you where it's at, yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done, I'll be number one. Working hella hard until I get just what I want, yeah. Rises like the sun, yeah, fatal like a gun. Shooter's gonna shoot and I'm gonna shoot until I fall, yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win, yeah.
Hey everybody, how are you tonight? Sorry about the time changes, but my niece ended up coming back over to my house because she didn't want to go to the rodeo with her family. So I pushed it back to 7:30, and it was perfect timing because she just left about 10 minutes ago. So that's why I was a little bit late starting with my new time. So thank you everyone for being here. This again is let me rephrase that. It's been 25 years since Matthew Shepard was horrifically murdered in Laramie, Wyoming. And so I was able to find some old news clips from a channel. And let me just look. I don't remember. It's SuchIsLifeVideos. And I will drop the link in chat. It is also listed in the description. They have a lot of old footage of a lot of different things. And so I do have some old footage that will kind of give a sense of what the environment was back in 1998 and what the feelings of the community were. I will say that I have watched everything before coming live, and it is very emotional. Well, at least for me it was. And so I did have the viewer discretion is advised. I also have the disclaimer to be kind in chat. Inappropriate and or hateful comments will be removed. And if it continues, then I will have to make the choice to block you. So, and I don't foresee that happening, but I wanted to mention that just in case something occurs, it will not be tolerated. So again, this is remembering Matthew Shepard, who was born on December 1st, 1976, tragically died on October 12th, 1998. And so I have dates for all of the clips that I have because, like I said, I was able to find footage from 1998, but the next newest news coverage or video that I could find was 2008. So I've got some things in there. They're all by time. So I am going to start first, though, with an article that I found from The Guardian, and it talks about the play, The Laramie Project, which is based on what happened to Matthew. And also it talks about a book that was written that I did actually order today from Amazon. It's called The Book of Matt, Hidden Truths About the Murder of Matthew Shepard. And that was published by investigative journalist Stephen Jimenez. So I did order that book today, and I also ordered the book written by Matthew's mom, which should be here tomorrow. So that's really exciting. I may just end up reading tomorrow and not doing the live I scheduled. We'll have to see. So I'll say a quick hello to all of you because this may be a little bit of a longer live. I have it timed at about 2 hours. It may be more, it may be less, but it'll be around that. So hello to, let me just scroll up. I had seen AMAC, but I know AMAC is also live. Evil Queen Yaya, Shauna, Fairy Meadows, Ange, Deborah, K Braze, again, new here. Welcome. Claire, True Jedi Forever. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the subject matter being shared. Such a sad trend in politics to make hate a way to garner votes. And that actually, hang on, I have a cat fight. Give me 1 second. I'm sure you heard that. Sorry about that. Hopefully you did not hear that. That was insane. Okay. Let's see, where was I? Hey, Bash. Voices. Hello. Sinner, as always. Oh, Voices. Matthew was in your poli-sci and English class, and you said it was high school, correct? I remember you saying that the other day. Hey, Lisa, have fun at work. Oh, Lisa, good idea. Oh, you heard a scuffle. Yes. Oh, it was a literal cat fight. Yes. I heard a hiss, and then I heard like the tussle happening, and then the chase and more hissing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go break it up. Oh, you both went to University of Wyoming. Gotcha. Okay. All right. So this first article again is from The Guardian, And it is a little bit lengthy, but I think it's very informative. It has it's very well written, if I do say so myself. So again, the truth behind America's most famous gay hate murder. Matthew Shepard's horrific death at the hands of redneck homophobes shocked America and changed its laws. Now a different truth is emerging, but does it matter? Julie Bindel reports. And this is the fence post where Matthew was found. And it says, the caption is, "A basket of flowers hangs from the fence where Matthew was left tied and beaten." The horrific killing of Matthew Shepard in 1998 is widely seen as one of the worst anti-gay hate crimes in American history. Matthew was beaten by two assailants, Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson. They pistol whipped him with a gun, then tied him to a fence in freezing conditions and set fire to him before leaving him to die. The attack became a cause célèbre. It precipitated a national backlash against hyper-macho culture and tacit tolerance of homophobia. As a result of Matthew's death, many good things have happened for the gay community. The play, The Laramie Project, has toured the U.S. and many other countries, telling Matthew's story and encouraging campaigns against bigotry. Politicians and celebrities pledged support and funding to combat anti-gay hate crime. The Shepard family have become campaigners for gay rights. Judy and Dennis Shepard run the Matthew Shepard Foundation, which funds educational programs in an online community for teens to discuss sexual orientation and gender issues. There have been numerous documentaries, dramas, books, and events based on the story. And the link for the Matthew Shepard Foundation is linked in the description of this live. Definitely check it out when you have a moment, and I will also drop the link in chat. There's a lot of information there that can be used, in any way you may see fit. The men responsible for his death were convicted of first-degree murder and given 2 life sentences. They were not charged with a hate crime, as that wasn't possible under Wyoming's criminal law. But after lengthy wrangling in Congress, President Obama finally signed the Matthew Shepard Act in 2009, a law which defines certain attacks motivated by victim identity as hate crimes. But the Matthew Shepard story is not finished yet. A new twist came last year with the publication of another book, this one by investigative journalist Stephen Jimenez, who has spent 13 years interviewing more than 100 people with a connection to the case. His conclusion, outlined in The Book of Matt, Hidden Truths About the Murder of Matthew Shepard, is that the grotesque murder was not a hate crime, but could instead be blamed on crystal meth, a drug that was flooding Denver and the surrounding area at the time of Matthew's death. This new theory has understandably caused a lot of anger, as I would also agree with that statement. Jimenez has faced a barrage of criticism since the publication of his book and has had readings to promote the book boycotted. Jimenez claims, however, that many of his critics have not actually read it. The Advocate, America's leading LGBT magazine, published a piece that year entitled, quote, "Why I'm Not Reading the Trutherism About Matt Shepard." Jimenez has been accused of being a revisionist, a criticism usually reserved for extreme right-wing ideologues that deny the Holocaust, and labeled a homophobe. And so I decided to order the book and read it for myself to see what exactly he has to say. Because based on this article, his narrative is very different from what was presented in court and in the media at the time. Yes, voices. And I feel too, I mean, I don't remember very well because I was a sophomore in college when this happened. And actually, no, I was a junior. Yeah, I was a junior. And so I wasn't really that into current events, or I've never been in politics. But I don't remember hate crime being noticed as much as it is now. Okay, voices. I do not remember crystal meth being a thing. That was back when crank was really big. It was always crank. Okay. So, people object to the idea of the book rather than what is in the book. The anger directed at me has been pretty extreme. And there is a photo of Matthew Shepard. He was just 5 foot 2 inches tall, and his slight frame gave an air of vulnerability. Jimenez had no intention of causing such controversy. He's an award-winning writer and TV producer and visited Laramie shortly after the murder to gather material for a screenplay about the case. When he started, he was convinced that Matthew died at the hands of homophobes, but he soon discovered that Matthew's tragedy began long before the night he was killed. Jimenez found that Matthew was addicted to and dealing crystal meth and had dabbled in heroin. He also took significant sexual risks and was being pimped alongside Aaron McKinney, one of his killers with whom he'd had occasional sexual encounters. He was HIV positive at the time of his death. This does not make the perfect poster boy for the gay rights movement, says Jimenez, which is a big part of the reason my book has been so trashed. Matthew's drug abuse and the fact that he knew one of his killers prior to the attack was never explored in court. Neither was the rumor that the killers knew that he had access to a shipment of crystal meth with a street value of $10,000, which they wanted to steal. I agree, Lisa. He definitely is. And I wanted to present this because this article, again, was from October 26, 2014. And so it was about 20 years after. So, oops, I went too far. Oh, here I am. Yeah. And I never knew there was a book besides the book that Matthew's mom had written. So when I saw this, I said, well, I'm going to read the book and just see, because I had only heard that, well, read that at the bar it was known to be gay friendly. So Matthew went there. He met these two guys, and it had started as a robbery. And then when they found out Matthew was gay, that's when they turned on him, so to speak. Okay, voices. Laramie was liberal town back then, but is nothing like liberal today. Yes, and I had forgotten about the girlfriend until I watched a clip today that someone else, another creator, had done a video, and I had totally forgotten about the girlfriend who was involved. Matthew was born into an affluent family and had attended state school in Casper, Wyoming. The 21-year-old political science major at Laramie University stood only 5 feet 2 inches tall, and his blonde hair, braces, and slight frame gave him an air of vulnerability and innocence. In his junior year of high school, Matthew moved with his family to Saudi Arabia. There were no American high schools in Saudi at the time, so he was sent to the American school in Switzerland. By the time he enrolled at Laramie, he spoke 3 languages and had aspirations to be a human rights advocate. Somewhere along the line, however, Matthew fell from being a grade A student to a drug-addicted prostitute who diced with danger. He suffered periods of depression, possibly as a result of being gang-ard a few years earlier while on holiday in Morocco. But this is not the Matthew Shepard who became a celebrated figure for the gay rights movement in America. I'm going to skip that part. Excuse me. Give me 1 second. On the evening of October 6, 1998, Matthew went to the Fireside Bar, a local hangout that was purportedly gay-friendly. It was karaoke night, and locals rubbed shoulders with workers calling in for a swift drink on their way home. Shortly afterwards, Russell Henderson and Aaron McKinney arrived. The 3 men chatted briefly before leaving the bar and getting in a truck belonging to McKinney's father. In the truck, Matthew was robbed of his keys, wallet, and shoes, and beaten repeatedly by one or both of the men. He was then taken from the truck, pistol whipped up to 18 times on the head, and kicked between the legs. Matthew was tied to a fence, set on fire, and left unconscious. 15 hours after the attack, student Aaron Kreifels was out riding his bike when he discovered Matthew tied to the fence, barely alive. He initially mistook him for a scarecrow. Matthew's face was covered in blood, aside from tear tracks on each side of his cheeks. And here is Russell Henderson, 21, and Aaron McKinney, 22, at the time of their sentencing. The first officer at the scene was Reggie Flutie. The only thing I could see was partially somebody's feet, and I got out of my vehicle and raced over, said Flutie, her short blonde hair, fringe, and wire-rimmed glasses making her appear more social worker than police officer. I seen what appeared to be a young man, 13, 14 years old, because he was so tiny, laying on his back, and he was tied to the bottom end of a pole. I did the best I could. After leaving Matthew tied to the fence, McKinney and Henderson headed for Matthew's home, but on the way encountered 2 young Hispanic men, Emiliano Morales and Jeremy Herrera, slashing tires for fun. The men got into a fight, resulting in McKinney cracking open Morales' head with the same gun he had used on Matthew. Police officer Flint Waters arrived, grabbed Henderson, he and McKinney had run in different directions, and found the truck, the gun, Matthew's shoes, and credit card. I spoke to Waters, who has since retired from the police, having seen him praise the Book of Matt on social media. I believe to this day that McKinney and Henderson were trying to find Matthew's house so they could steal his drugs. It was fairly well known in the Laramie community that McKinney wouldn't be one that was striking out of a sense of homophobia. Some of the officers I worked with had caught him in an act with another man, so it didn't fit. None of that made any sense. But when Matthew's friends Walt Bolden and Alex Trout heard of the attack, they rushed to the hospital. They contacted the Associated Press and a number of local gay organizations that same day. Bolden, a 46-year-old college instructor who says he was the last person to talk to Matthew before he met McKinney and Henderson, linked the attack to Wyoming legislature's failure to pass a hate crimes bill. Bolden later said the assault was identified as a hate crime by a policeman. Stephen Jimenez is an award-winning journalist and gay man. So why has he put such time and effort into attempting to prove that Matthew's murder was not a hate crime, especially as it has seen him accused of being an ally to the right-wing Christian fundamentalists who deny the reality of homophobia? The view was that homophobic rednecks walked into a bar and saw an obviously gay man with money and targeted him and beat him to death for that reason. But that isn't what happened. Nothing in this book takes away from the inequity and brutality of the crime or the capability of his murderers, but we owe Matthew and other young men like him the truth. Aaron and Matthew had a friendship. They'd been involved. They bought and sold drugs from each other. That complicates the original story of two strangers walking into a bar and targeting Matthew, someone they did not know because he was gay. Although McKinney has never acknowledged that he knew Matthew, Jimenez found a dozen sources that had seen them together. One is Kathleen Johnson, the former owner of Laramie antique store Granny's Attic, who knew Henderson, McKinney, and Matthew. The young, unemployed men had not had easy lives. I'm going to skip that part because it's about the offenders. 5 days after the attack, on October 12th, Matthew died. On October 14th, a celebrity vigil was held on the steps of the U.S. Capitol, attended by the likes of Ted Kennedy and Ellen DeGeneres. And I actually did watch that celebrity vigil earlier today, and it was quite emotional. Elton John sent flowers to Matt's funeral. Barbara Streisand telephoned the Albany County Sheriff's Office to demand quick action on the case, and Madonna called an assistant to University President Philip Dubois to complain about what had happened. The day Matthew died, President Clinton told journalists at the White House, "In our shock and grief, one thing must remain clear. Hate and prejudice are not American values." And here, anti-gay protesters at Matthew's funeral. I do have a news clip, and again, that was from, I don't remember the name of the page, but I do have it in the description of this live. The funeral was attended by more than 1,000 mourners and picketed by the Westboro Baptist Church, led by Fred Phelps, a defrocked minister and founder of GodHatesFags.com. To counter the protest, Matthew's friends dressed as angels. And so I'm going to stop that there just because that goes into some other stuff that isn't really relevant. And I also did see the video of the protesters and then Matthew's friends dressed up as angels dancing. I would say dancing, which was really interesting. So let me just take a look at chat before we... I agree, Sinner. People that evil are extra dangerous because they are so unintelligent. Yeah, super cruel. Like, Hey, Darby, I remember this horrendous event so much as I had flown up to San Francisco to attend my brother and his partner's commitment ceremony and reception. After a happy night, I saw this on the news. The Laramie Project is amazing. Yes, that's one play I have not seen, but I always have wanted to. Oh, I agree. They definitely made it a hate crime, Lisa. So the first video I have is
25
is actually from October 9th, 2023. So I did start with a current video, and then we're going to go back to 1998, and then we're going to move forward from there. Oh, I agree. And there's one guy they interview in the clip I have, and just listening to him, I was like, I just could not believe what I was hearing. Like bigotry. Just, well, we'll see.
5 years ago, a 21-year-old student at the University of Wyoming was brutally attacked, tied to a fence, and left in a field to die. All of it because he was gay. In the years since, Matthew Shepard has become a name synonymous with erasing hate toward LGBTQ+ people.
His parents, Dennis and Judy Shepard, created the Matthew Shepard Foundation, helping to change the landscape for the LGBTQ+ community. The first time they publicly spoke about Matthew's death was with award-winning journalist Katie Couric. 25 years later, she met with them again. Katie's joining us live now from New York. Katie, you sat down with the Shepards again 25 years later. Why was it important to them to go on the record with you again?
Well, I think that they really want to keep Matthew's memory alive. You know, a lot of people, since it was 25 years ago, a lot of young people don't necessarily even know the name Matthew Shepard and what a huge impact his brutal murder had in galvanizing people in support of the LGBTQ+ community. And so I think, first of all, I think they felt really comfortable talking to me because I've stayed connected to them.
And that is true. I actually have another interview that Katie did with Matthew's mom. And then she also did the interview a few weeks ago with Matthew's mom and dad. Lisa says the people that live across the street from the actual church are a gay couple that painted the outside of the house a rainbow. How cool is that? Sassy says, my daughter is a lesbian and I wouldn't have her any other way. If anyone were to hurt her for that reason, hell, any reason, there would be hell to pay. This mama bear comes out in full force. I feel the same way, K-Braze. It's hard to understand how people's lives are so affected by other people's beliefs. Right. Hey, Kathy, how are you?
All these years, you know, through these years, and now 25 years later. So when they reached out to me, I said, of course, I would be honored to talk with them again.
You know, Katie, I've also had the opportunity to get to know Dennis and Judy as well over the past few years. And while they've done such incredible work through the Matthew Shepard Foundation, they always say their goal is to close the doors on the foundation. They don't want to do this work anymore. Yeah. They would like to stop doing it altogether. I'm curious if they spoke to you about the state of LGBTQ+ rights in our country right now and the work the foundation is doing to address that.
Well, as you know, there are so many anti-gay laws going on across the country that are being considered or that have been enacted. And they are very, very concerned about what's happening. I think they felt like they had made, taken 2 steps forward and now 1 step back. So they are speaking out. They're talking to state legislatures. They're lecturing. They speak to schools, businesses, law enforcement agencies about how to enforce hate crimes legislation. So they are still very active. And you're right. I don't think they ever imagined 25 years later their voices would be so necessary. Mm-hmm. But clearly they are. I think the FBI stats show that hate crimes against LGBTQ+ people have increased 11%. So they're really needed even today, sadly.
Yeah, I was at the Matthew Shepard Foundation Gala over this past weekend, Katie, and they very politely said they wish we never knew who they were because of this. But I'm curious, since we all do now, what they hope that Matthew's legacy will be.
Well, I think that they hope that he will be a constant reminder about the brutality and intolerance and hatred people who are different still face. And, Matthew was an incredibly sweet, tender-hearted person. He would never hurt anyone. He was highly sensitive. And I think it was obviously such a senseless death.
I agree with Katie, senseless. And okay, voices. Those 2 were well known to be, quote, thugs. They beat up 2 other Hispanic men the same night. And I wanted to share, Sinner did share the rainbow house with me. It is amazing. Absolutely amazing. I would love to have a house. And it looks like their shed in the back is also rainbow. Like, how cool is that? I mean, come on. That's amazing. Yeah, so cool. Oh, it does kind of look like Lego blocks. Like, yeah, it does. Because when you would build your house, well, the way I would build my Lego house was always like, one color, then another color, then another color. And it's just so cool. Yeah, I know, right, Lisa? And the church really doesn't like it. It's the best. It is so cool.
And I just think that they hope he'll continue to be a symbol about what can happen, and that we have to stay vigilant and make sure that all people are accepted with love and inclusion in our society. So I think they just want him to continue to be a symbol of what could happen and what shouldn't happen.
Yeah, they have been such a driving force behind the LGBTQ plus community. Katie, thank you. And you can watch Katie's exclusive interview with the Shepards this morning on Today, right here on 9 News.
And we will watch that in a moment. Sinner sent another photo of so this says, I want to see if I can read. It's kind of blurry. It says, please donate. This sign on the bottom says, feel free to come on property for pictures. It's the Rainbow House. Please share and help. Oh, whoops. It might be a different house. It looks like the same house, but it might be a different house. I don't know, because the shed is still in the back. And it's the same porch fence and sign. I just don't think they had the shed rainbow yet. Hey, Rapper. I think it's the same house. It has the number to the house is right where it was on the last one, too. So if I show the initial picture, it's the same layout. Yeah, right, K-Rays, that's awesome. So technically the people that live there are gold. All right, let's go back here.
"25 years ago."
Ugh, this thing. Okay, so this is SuchIsLifeVideos, and that link is in the description of this live as well. And a huge thank you to this channel. This is news footage. It's about 30 minutes, but again, very important in my opinion to see what the sediments were, the environment was back in 1998. And this is one thing that I didn't think I was going to be able to find. So when I found it, I was very thankful that this creator had it.
Was a gruesome discovery at this fence late Wednesday afternoon as the sun was setting. Two bicyclists approached, and at first they said it looked like a scarecrow had been tied to the fence. Instead, the lifeless, savagely beaten body of 21-year-old Matthew Shepard, a University of Wyoming freshman, a gay man, barely alive tonight, in a coma, brain damaged, and on life support. Today, two young men, Russell Henderson and Aaron McKinney, who whispered an obscenity as he came into court, were charged.
In the county of Albany,
Kidnapping, robbery, and attempted murder. A hate crime, according to police, who say the two met Shepard in this Laramie bar, tricked him into believing they were gay too. Then the three left.
Right. So there is the, what was presented in court and what happened.
left together. It was 1 a.m. Wednesday morning, but Shepard, a small man, was allegedly beaten with the butt of a pistol.
I know, right? Voices, the news footage back then. Yeah, and I don't know how this creator was able to get this. I mean, maybe, I mean, I'm sure it's on film somewhere, but I mean, this was, I couldn't believe I found it.
Burned with cigarette butts, and finally tied spread eagle to the fence, left to die. Wyoming is known as the cowboy state. It's one of 8 without a hate crime law. For the last 5 years here, state lawmakers have defeated attempts to legislate against hate, saying they didn't want to give preferential treatment to homosexuals. At the University of Wyoming here in Laramie, students say while there is tolerance on campus to those who are different, it's another story off campus.
The homecoming parade at the University of Wyoming. After the band and the floats and the hoopla, a quiet reminder that something ugly happened here this week.
We need to get out and show people that there are people that care.
The homecoming parade doubled in.
Oh my gosh, and some of you may not know, some of you do because I've mentioned it, but after college, one of my sorority sisters and I had plans to move to Laramie, and it ended up, she ended up moving to Colorado. I didn't want to go to Colorado, so it never happened, but that is one thing that we wanted to do, was to move to Laramie. And that just, like, it just looks so cool.
In size as more joined to make a statement against hate.
This is a terrible crime against a person, no matter if he's black, colored, gay, or white. You don't treat people that way.
At the homecoming football game, 15,000 people stood in silence for Matthew Shepard. Less than 2 miles away, down a dusty country road, at the fence where the beating took place, another smaller sign that Shepard will not soon be forgotten here.
Violence and hatred starts in small ways and grows and grows and grows. The cruelty and hate that was inflicted on Matthew Shepard cries out to each one of us to examine.
Oh, I thank SuchIsLifeVideos for having it, and I mean, it was just happenstance that I came upon it, but I was like, I've got to show this, even though it's 30 minutes long, just to give the whole atmosphere back when it actually happened.
Examine our lives and to do it honestly.
The victim of what many people say was a hate crime in Wyoming this morning has died. 21-year-old Matthew Shepard was found beaten and unconscious last week near the University of Wyoming. Shepard was gay, and while police say robbery was the primary motive for the attack, gay rights groups call it a hate crime. Shepard remained on life support at a Colorado hospital until this morning when he passed away. A hospital spokesman said Shepard's family is grateful for support from around the world.
Like the good, caring son that he was, he was able to remove from them the guilt or stress of having to make that decision. They said that he came into the world premature and he left the world premature. They are most grateful for the time that they had to spend.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jim Peck.
And I will say that this part of the video really got me, because Matthew's mom and dad speak, and it's heartbreaking.
I'm here today to be with my sister Judy, her husband Dennis, and the rest of the family as we say goodbye to a wonderful young man, my nephew, Matthew Shepard. I will shortly introduce my sister Judy and my brother-in-law Dennis Shepard, Matthew's parents. They would like to make a statement on behalf of our family and all of those who knew and loved Matthew. Please respect our decision that Matthew's memorial service today be closed to all but family members, our friends, and our invited guests. The shocking loss of Matthew and the worldwide attention to the circumstances that led to his untimely death demand that our family comes together in peace with privacy. Please allow us to comfort each other without distraction. We have made a concerted effort to make this solemn service accessible to you while still allowing us to pray for Matthew in peace. We know you all understand. The Shepard family would appreciate it if the media honor this request and not bother those who come together to say farewell to Matthew. Lastly, we request that you refrain from questions or comments after Matthew's father, Dennis Shepard, makes a brief statement on behalf of the family. Thank you for your restraint and your understanding. Ladies and gentlemen, Matthew's parents, Dennis and Judy Shepard.
Thank you very much. Before I read my statement, I would like to thank the press for respecting our privacy, both here and in Fort Collins.
And that I thought was a huge statement, because just like Sinner had said a moment ago, thankfully for the family, YouTube didn't exist yet. The media did exist, yet here they respected the privacy of this family, whereas we see that that's not the case in many circumstances these days.
These very trying times. On behalf of the Shepard family, during this most difficult time, we're unable to fully express our appreciation for the kindness, concern, and professionalism of the Poudre Valley Hospital staff in Fort Collins. As shown by Mr. Rulon Stacy during his touching statement at the time of our son Matthew's passing. Our appreciation as well must be expressed to the Albany County Sheriff's Department, the Laramie City Police Department, and the Iverson Memorial Hospital in Laramie for their extraordinary help and respectful consideration. On behalf of our son, Matthew Shepard, we want to thank the citizens of the United States and the people of the world who have expressed their deepest sympathy and condolences to our family during these trying times. A person as caring and loving as our son Matt would be overwhelmed by what this incident has done to the hearts and souls of people around the world. Matthew is the type of person that if this had happened to another person, would have been the first on the scene to offer his help, his hope, and his heart to the family. We, the family, have no adequate way of expressing our gratitude for the thousands of email, comments, website messages, phone calls, and cards offering help, consolation, sympathy, and support that we have received. We are honored and touched beyond measure. Please understand and respect my family's request for a private and dignified farewell to our son today.
Ugh. Oh, I know, Sinner. Can you imagine a world where media was respectful? What happened? Voices says, unfortunately, they asked. They were harassed a bit. Yeah, and just even in some of the footage that we're going to see, the protesters being there, like it's so disrespectful and uncalled for.
Matt's family and friends loved him deeply, and we need to share a quiet goodbye with him. Matt himself would have been the first to honor another family's request if this had happened to someone else. We should try to remember that because Matt's last few minutes of consciousness on earth may have been hell, his family and friends want more than ever to say their farewells to him in a peaceful, dignified, and loving manner. Once again, I must express our appreciation for the outpouring of concern about Matt's well-being during the last week as he fought for his life in the hospital. We'll never forget the love that the world has shared with his kind, loving son. Thank you.
Yes, True Jedi, it was. And he was not buried until, I believe it was 2018, because his family feared that his resting place would be desecrated.
So say and spell your first and last name again for me.
W.
Okay, and this is where the next two interviews that are done are quite angering. And again, just for context, this is the beliefs of many.
N. Otwell, Otwell.
And what church are you affiliated with?
I'm the Heritage Baptist Church in Nacogdoches, Texas, or Mount Enterprise. I better say Mount Enterprise. They get mad if I don't use Mount Enterprise.
Tell me why you're here today.
We're here to say that we're against the brutal killing of Matthew Shepard, but we're here mostly to say that we're against sodomy. We're against homosexuality, been against it for years. My parents taught me better. The Bible teaches us better. We're here not to condone the killing. Anyone ought to be against that, even to an animal. No one has a right to be murdered like that. But we're here to stand against wickedness. They call us hate mongers. That's fine. We hate everything God hates. God hates the sin of sodomy. He hates sin, and we hate sin.
And again, this man traveled from Texas to Wyoming to protest someone's lifestyle. Why? It's just so disrespectful and uncalled for.
We hate the sin of sodomy. Sodomy is a more wicked crime and more corrupt a sin against society than drugs, than alcohol, or illiteracy, because it's perversion. And we're here to take our stand, and it offends me. It personally offends me that we allow sodomy to
Well, sir, you offend me.
Run loose in this country, and it offends me this morning the state of Wyoming would lower their flags half-mast in the public school system to honor a sodomite. No one appreciates what happened, but at the same time, we don't honor our grandparents. We don't honor our fathers who died in the wars. We don't honor our mothers and grandparents who get killed, brutally killed or raped. We don't do this. We're discriminating here. And I think it's wrong. It's ridiculous. And as far as I'm concerned, it's wickedness on the governor's part of the state of Wyoming to say to the public school system, lower your flags to half-mast. I think it's wicked in this country.
What about the folks who say this isn't the forum, that this should be for the family, protest some other time, not here?
To start with, I don't think it ought to even been in the church. I don't think there's no...
So again, I am very glad that reporter asked that question. Like, why? Why protest? So now he's saying, well, I don't even think it should have been in the church. Again, who are you, sir?
Such thing as a Christian sodomite. You can't die and go to heaven being a sodomite. You have to repent and be born again to go to heaven.
I used to be in sin. I danced on every dance floor in Southwest Arkansas and San Diego, California, but I had been drunk. I had to get born again and get out of my drunken stupor and get off the dance floor and to serve God. And God changed my life from a life of sin and wickedness to a life that was godly and holy. Not perfect, but godly and holy. And sodomy is sin and wickedness. And if that man didn't...
I agree. F that church. I mean, I can't even understand the thinking of this.
Repent before he died, he's in hell today.
Why here, though? Why now?
Because this is an opportunity that you have to continue to stand against wickedness. Now, the government will use this opportunity, just like the state of Wyoming is using this opportunity, and the gay activists to get this hate crime bill in. I think it's stupid that we want to pass a hate crime law when killing is killing. My life is as important as anybody's life. Your life is as important as anybody's life. What makes a gay person or a black person or a minority any more important than anyone else in this world?
That's not the point, sir. Oh, Voices, that looks like it's on campus. And I'm just curious, Voices, how far was the bar from where Matthew was found? Was it close by, or was it more, kind of out there? Yeah, I agree, Shauna. Thankfully, I was raised better than this as well.
For Matthew Shepard's family, don't you think that taking this stand here at this time, not saying that you shouldn't protest when you want to protest, but wouldn't that be hurtful for them?
I think this mother and these parents need to face reality. They didn't raise him right. They didn't teach him right. And the Bible said a child left himself brings his mother to shame. Proverbs 29:15. He lived like he died. He died in shame. He lived in shame. He died in shame. And
again, and I know that people like this man still exist and still have these beliefs. I just will never understand it, ever.
his parents ought to be ashamed. They ought to be ashamed to even identify him as a Christian. It's a shame to even have his funeral in this church house over here. Regardless of where I agree with the Episcopals or not, they shouldn't even have it in that church house. They should have it at some queer bar somewhere or some queer.
Oh my God. Like, oh my God.
Meeting somewhere, not over here in this church house, because this church house, regardless of it being Episcopal, a Baptist, a Methodist, whatever, represents true religion or Christianity. That's what it represents. And we don't say that sodomites is going to die and go to heaven when they die. Just like a drunk and a liar and a thief and a dishonest person, they don't get born again, they're going to die and go to hell. Thank you.
Okay. First saying, spell your first.
Okay, so now this guy is Fred Phelps, and he was the man who was at the protest. So this is his interview. Hey, Blank. Wait, what, Blank? Seriously? Oh my gosh. So just a real quick pause. Friend star Matthew Perry dead at age 54 of apparent drowning. The beloved Friend star was reportedly discovered dead in the jacuzzi of an LA area home on Saturday afternoon. Law enforcement sources told TMZ that first responders rushed to the address with the call first reported as a cardiac arrest. They added that no drugs found at the scene and no foul play is suspected. Oh my gosh, that is really sad. Yeah, CK, I'm with you. Ugh, Fred Phelps, not a cool person. But thank you for letting us know, Blank. That's really, really sad. He was so young.
First and last names.
Fred, F-R-E-D, Phelps, P-H-E-L-P-S.
And what affiliation, what church?
Pastor, Westboro Baptist Church, Topeka, Kansas.
In Westboro. How do you spell that?
W-E-S-T-B-O-R-O.
In Topeka, Kansas.
Topeka, Kansas.
Okay. Tell me why you're here today, sir.
Well, I already told everybody in the civilized world.
And I'm offended that he's wearing a Jayhawks hat.
I'll tell you again. This is an important event. We haven't seen anything quite like this over this kind of subject since we picketed Randy Schultz's funeral in San Francisco. We want to inject, or hope to inject, a little sanity and gospel truth into what's shaping up fast to be some kind of an orgy of homosexual propaganda and lies. Is like a Cecil B. DeMille epic going on here.
My gosh, this dude. And does anybody know what the Randy Schultz case is? I did write down his name. And I'm going to look into it, but if anybody knows what the Randy Schultz case is, let me know.
It's not okay to be gay. We're sorry that young boy got killed. I've told the governor here that if they convict anybody for that and they have the death penalty, I'll come at my expense and flip the switch. But that's not the issue here. The issue here is this method by these militant, activist homosexual groups to use this as a fulcrum to propagate their filthy lifestyle and their filthy program and their degenerate political agenda. That's what they're doing, and using this boy's funeral as a methodology for it.
Why this occasion? We just came from speaking to the family for the first time, and they want this funeral to be private, peaceful. It's a solemn occasion for them. They want folks to respect their wish to just say goodbye privately to their son and without all of this.
Well, we've told these homosexuals for 8 years now that if they want to have a private funeral and keep quiet about it and go off with just the family, they won't hear from us. But when they turn it into something like this, it's too.
And so the family didn't turn it into anything. The magnitude of how severe this attack was is what got the media's attention. Like,
too late to talk about having a private, low-key, respectful funeral. I mean, we believe a little bit of God's side ought to be injected into this mass hysteria here. I mean, it's not okay to be gay. I mean, it's a soul-damning, nation-destroying lifestyle. God's word for it, he destroyed Sodom because it was accepted and respected. He'll destroy this nation also. All the gospel preachers, look, 51 years ago, when those old Baptist preachers laid their hands on my head and ordained me to this ministry, they all preached this way. You didn't hear any kind of stuff that it's okay to be gay and agitating for gay rights and all the rest of it. These people don't deserve any special laws. They're sinners.
What about Matt's parents who might be hurt by this? Matt's parents, if they walk into the church, they hear you folks, could be hurt by that.
Well, I hope they'll be helped by it. I know they're not going to be helped by these fags carrying on like they're carrying on.
Like, so disrespectful. Like, doesn't even care about the parents. Oh, I hope they'll be helped by this. No compassion, no empathy.
I'll tell you another thing. My mom, bless her soul, taking me to the dentist to comfort me, used to say a little hurt now saves a big hurt later. That's what I would say to his parents. We're sorry for your loss. But if that boy could come back and stand with us today, his message would be, according to Luke 16, listen to Fred Phelps, for God's sake.
No, Fred Phelps. That is not what's written in Luke 16.
Listen to Phelps, mom, dad, all of you, or you're going to come where I am. The evidence is not good for it, you know, that boy's in heaven.
Right.
Have you ever been to a fag parade?
And so now this is where they were protesting, and it's disgusting.
They didn't force the fags to adopt it as their own label. They're proud of that label. We didn't make that word up.
Wow. And so just to read some of the signs: flee the wrath to come, AIDS cures FAGS, Matt in hell. And like, this is a Christian way of acting. I highly disagree. Hey, Pookie. Hey, AMAC. Thanks for joining. Oh, CK, thank you. He hated military veterans, AIDS victims, gays, and his slogan was God hates FAGS. It's disgusting.
We sure didn't associate it with them.
But we're not going to sanitize their lifestyle either. And we're not going to pretend that in this insanity where everyone is caterwauling for special laws, what more do you want from those many who killed him besides the death penalty? You cannot kill them twice, so you can pass all the more laws you want, and it will not change this situation.
And when you start passing those hate crime laws, you've just said that it's worse to kill someone of the same sex than it is if they picked up a woman in the bar and done it. That's
Voices says they sold raid t-shirts. It was awful. I don't know if that was a typo or... Yeah, exactly, K-Braze. Did they not understand by them doing this is bringing more attention to the subject? Right. Hey, mother of two boys. Yeah, I agree, Sinner. They're the devil, for sure. They are evil incarnate.
what your hate crime laws say. They're your pet political correctness of the month. That's all a hate crime law is. You, by promoting hate crime laws for this crime of robbery and murder, you said it's worse to kill someone than it is to kill someone else. If they'd robbed a female that they picked up in a bar trying to take her out for sex and then robbed her, you wouldn't be all here. You're here because this is your political activity to promote fags and their filthy lifestyle. Somebody's got to put some balance to it.
Oh my God.
It's filthy, and you need to report the whole truth. Not just that he was killed in a robbery after he was picked up in a fag bar.
Wow. Wow. And here's a child also holding a sign.
Who told that child it's okay to troll for strange
Westboro
flesh
Baptist Church.
in that bar? Who said he did that?
I mean,
Well, how do you know they even killed him? How do you know he was even murdered by those kids? How do you know he had anything around him being gay? Because you don't have anything to do with being gay. The media, nationally and internationally, and the homosexual community, nationally and internationally, has turned this into a referendum on homosexual rights.
Then why don't you go do it in your own town?
What's your name?
In your own town on TV then. Make it media that way.
What's your name?
We're using it to remind you that there's God in heaven, a day of judgment, and it is not okay to be gay.
So why weren't you out there protesting when the 8-year-old girl was raped and murdered in Powell? Why weren't you out there when he did that?
Got raped by a
Yeah. A pervert.
That's right. This guy has no right. He's a human being.
That's right.
He is a human being. Well, that's fine. I know my Bible. I came from Sodom and Gomorrah out of Jordan, and I know my Bible. And you're wrong. He's a human being. It don't matter. God loves everybody.
Yeah, there we go. God loves everybody. It don't matter.
God loves everybody.
Well, you just told another lie.
Hey, no, God loves everybody.
You know your Bible.
Talk to me about Sodom and Gomorrah. Why God destroyed the earth.
If you know your Bible,
Yeah, well, I know my Bible. I happen to be full-blooded Greek. And I'm married, man.
He said, the guy said, I know my Bible. I happen to be full-blooded priest.
Great man. And I am not. He's a human being. I don't care about your protests in our town. Yeah, I do know my Bible.
God loves everybody. Quote it for me.
Oh, well, God he does love everybody. The only reason you guys protest him because he's gay. And what about them two guys? What about them two guys? What about them two guys that walking out there taking his life away? Where from his family? Oh, he just came out of the wedlock, huh? Well, that's right. Judge not unless to be judged. Condemn not unless to be condemned. That's right. Well, who gave you the right to judge him then? No, we're not hypocrites. We're just as good as you are. Oh, yeah.
When are you going to quote me Romans 9:13? You want to have a
I
Bible
tell you what,
discussion?
if you guys don't recognize him as a human being, then you don't need to be out here. He's a human being. He has.
Quote me the verse.
Wow.
And he's in hell. And he's going to quote me the
Then you
verse.
judged him right there.
Quote me
You judging him.
Yeah, I know it, blank screen. Oh, you were still in school at that time? Yeah, I was a junior in college in October 1998. Yep.
Right there.
Quit avoiding the question. What does
God
Romans
judge him
9:13
and let God
say?
judge him, not you. Well, the only reason you are protesting because he's gay.
Scott Collins.
And so these are some of Matthew's friends that they interviewed.
Collins, SCOLLINS, Denver. My reaction is that these people don't have anything better to do with their time, and it's absolutely disgusting that they can't let us mourn in peace.
Yeah, I agree.
The what? The message that they're trying. They're not trying to send a message. They're making complete idiots of themselves. Message.
And I agree with this kid. They're making complete idiots of themselves. There's no message. They're just there protesting someone's funeral.
That they're trying to send is that they want to keep all of the human race divided and segregated. That's the message that they're trying to send. They're trying to send hate and violence, and they think that's okay. So in my book, they're not the good people. We're the good people, obviously. I feel really sorry for them. I feel really, really sorry for them.
What do you hope to give to Matt today?
Well, I knew Matt over the summer and stuff, and ever since this happened, it's been very, very difficult to keep a grip on reality. And what I'm going to give to Matt is everything that I can do in my power to change the way that things are, and that everything that Matt wanted, everything that Matt wanted to fight for, I'm going to fight for.
And I'm sorry to intrude on your space.
It's Terry Summers, TerrySummers.
Terry, what are you thinking today as you see what's going on across the street?
I see it's sad. They call themselves Christians. and they're spouting nothing but words of hate towards another human being. We're just trying to ignore them as much as we can. They're not true Christians, that's for sure. They have no regard for human life or Matthew and his family at this point in time. It's utterly appallable. But I want to make sure that people ignore them, because I know that this just fuels into their fire and that we must ignore them.
What are you going to do to counter their message that, you know, homosexuality is sodomy and sinful and that's on its way to hell? What do you want to do to counter that?
I think we definitely need to educate people. We need to respond to their message, but today is not the right place to do it. Today is for Matthew and his family, and that our hearts and our thoughts and our prayers are with him at this point in time.
Matt was a friend of yours.
I met him about 3 months ago.
What do you think? Just in your own heart.
I think Matt would be proud of the response that we've taken. That we are one people gathering together to celebrate his life and to mourn his loss and put our hearts and our thoughts and our prayers with his family at this time. Thanks.
In CK, that is the first time I had heard of Phelps, is when he was, quote, protesting and screaming at veterans' funerals. That's the first time that I heard of him and his people. It's just appalling, their behavior.
Okay, first of all, tell me your name.
It's Amber Miller, AmberMiller.
Amber, when you walked behind Reverend Phelps, you said, God don't hate no one. I was wondering what you wanted to tell him.
God doesn't hate anyone. I mean, it doesn't matter what this guy did. He didn't deserve to die this way. And these protesters here, I mean, they got kids out here doing this nonsense. They're getting these kids hating fags, gay people.
Tell them about what
It just,
they're portraying Christianity as something of hate, and it's not. I mean, as a Christian, Jesus Christ come in love and mercy and kindness and in truth, but this isn't.
I mean, just because the Bible says, homosexuality is a sin, God doesn't hate the sinner. God hates the sin. He doesn't hate the sinner. And it just drives me, it boggles my mind that these people are here at a funeral doing this, protesting. And I don't know what I'd do if I got in that guy's face. I'd probably just tell him the same thing. God doesn't hate anyone. He doesn't. That's why when you're laying on your deathbed, you have those last rites. And he'll forgive you when you get those last rites.
He doesn't hate the people that
Sin that does the sin. Yeah. He just hates the sins. That's right. Not the way this guy was taken. So, no. It's just sick. It really is. It's a brutal death. And it's really terrible that these people have to come out of town to do this, to labelize Casper, Wyoming as something really bad now. We're not.
And I agree. They, Phelps said they were from Topeka, Kansas, and they chose to travel to Wyoming to, quote, protest. Like, just stay home.
We're just trying to get these protesters out of here. We're not going to tolerate their nonsense.
Can I ask why they're labelizing him as gay, everything gay this, instead of just Matt Shepard? Why the media is just...
Yeah, why they have to make it so bad? That a gay student died.
Every time they go towards...
Yeah, go towards it. It's a gay student. It's not just Matt Shepard died. This guy died a brutal death. A gay student died a brutal death, and it's really... I don't know. Thanks.
Matthew, an angel with new wings in a place a world away.
Matthew, an angel with new wings, in a place a world away, can once again begin to sing. God took him in his arms today. He blessed his soul with loving care and took away his pain. His life story all would share, his memory on their hearts a stain.
So young a heart destroyed for a cause unforgotten, another's mind deployed, the result of a tragedy rotten. The tragic hero that's hard to find, a martyr with great courage. God's lamb, all of my heart. I wish you only knew how much. You'll be happier with this brand new start. The world's heart you now have touched.
And again, that was Such Is Life Videos, and the link is in the description of this live. So the next video goes to November 4th, 1999. And this is Dennis Shepard's courtroom speech. It's about 5 minutes long. And again, I was really surprised I was able to find this on YouTube. And again, all of the links will be in the description after the live. So definitely check out the creators who were able to capture these moments.
My son Matthew did not look like a winner. He was rather uncoordinated and wore braces from the age of 13 until the day he died. However, in his all too brief life, he proved that he was a winner. On October 6th, 1998, my son tried to show the world that he could win again. On October 12th, 1998, my firstborn son and my hero lost. On October 12th, 1998, my firstborn son and my hero died. 50 days before his 22nd birthday. I keep wondering the same thing that I did when I first saw him in the hospital. What would he have become? How could he have changed his piece of the world to make it better? Matt officially died in a hospital in Fort Collins, Colorado. He actually died on the outskirts of Laramie, tied to a fence. You, Mr. McKinney, with your friend, Mr. Henderson, left him there by himself. But he was not alone. There were his lifelong friends with him. Friends that he had grown up with. You're probably wondering who these friends were. First, he had the beautiful night sky and the same stars and moon we used to see through a telescope. Then he had the daylight and the sun to shine on him. And through it all, he was breathing in the scent of the pine trees from the snowy range. He heard the wind, the ever-present Wyoming wind, for the last time. He had one more friend with him. He had God. And I feel better knowing he wasn't alone. Matt's beating, hospitalization, and funeral focused worldwide attention on hate. Good is coming out of evil. People have said enough is enough. I miss my son, but I am proud to be able to say that he was my son. Judy has been quoted as being against the death penalty. It has been stated that Matt was against the death penalty. Both of these statements are wrong. I, too, believe in the death penalty. I would like nothing better than to see you die, Mr. McKinney. However, this is the time to begin the healing process. To show mercy to someone who refused to show any mercy. Mr. McKinney, I am going to grant you life, as hard as it is to do so, because of Matthew. Every time you celebrate Christmas, a birthday, the 4th of July, remember that Matt isn't. Every time you wake up in your prison cell, remember you had the opportunity and the ability to stop your actions that night. You robbed me of something very precious, and I will never forgive you for that. Mr. McKinney, I give you life in the memory of someone who no longer lives. May you have a long life, and may you thank Matthew every day for it. Thank you very much.
So that to me was very powerful. And the fact that Dennis decided to give McKinney life so that he could remember Matthew every day of his life. Okay.
My son, Matthew.
I'm not sure why this isn't progressing to the next slide. All right, give me one moment. So this next video is oh, sorry about that, from January 22nd, 2013. So 10 years ago, about 15 years after Matthew's murder.
Day to day it changes. Sometimes it seems like it was just yesterday, as you said, or 100 years ago. Every day is a brand new day still after 15 years.
Can you describe sort of what those days were like for you in the aftermath of what happened to Matthew?
Well, it was turmoil. Afterwards, we weren't sure where we stood. We weren't sure what we were going to do. We weren't
you
sure.
all were living, you and your husband Dennis,
right.
who's as wonderful as Judy is. You were both living in Saudi Arabia at the time because of Dennis's job.
Right.
So
right.
you were very far away, and so that must have added to that.
Oh gosh, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that Dennis and Judy were in Saudi Arabia at the time that Matthew was murdered. Oh, what did Spitfire say? Spitfire said, my daughter made it through okay, but she's never been one to care what people think of her. I've had coworkers make comments to me and blame my parenting for her turning out bisexual. That's just... just so, and I can see, on a side note, I can, at least in the school that I teach, I can see the change in the acceptance of those who are different from others. It seems there's more drama surrounding relationships than there is about someone's sexuality. I know when I was in high school, it was taboo. There was a stigma. Like, if you happened to be gay, you were treated differently. And I see it being much more accepted in schools, at least where I've taught. I know that there's probably some areas of the country that are not as accepting and loving towards people who are different than they are. But I personally, I've seen a change from when I was in high school in the mid-90s to now teaching in a school.
The agony of wondering what in the world was going on with your son.
Right, we got a phone call in the middle of the night, which seemed not unusual to us because Matt was always calling us in the middle of the night. Time zones were a little tricky for Matt. So the doctor said, we have Matt in the hospital. And it's like, what do you mean Matt in the hospital? This is crazy. He said, there's been an attack and we think you need to come home. And I still having trouble processing the whole thing. And he said, you need to come home. He couldn't even tell me what had happened then. They knew nothing, only that he'd been found.
So that flight from Saudi Arabia.
Right. It's a 19-hour, it was a 36-hour trip to get there. And we had to wait 19 hours to leave because it was early morning and flights don't leave there till the middle of the night. And we had paperwork we had to do, visas and travel and all of that. So it was a long time before we could even get to Matt, which made it all the harder. But you tend to go into this autopilot mode where you know there's a list of things you have to do. And if you think too much about why you're doing them, you may not get them done at all. And so we were very much engaged in the process to leave before we could admit to ourselves what we were going to find when we got there.
And when you got there, what did you find?
The press was surrounding the hospital. We had no idea that this had become a national story. We couldn't even figure out why it was a national story. This was very, our family, a very personal story. And I was really worried because Matt was gay, we thought, they're going to blame Matt for what happened because that's what the environment was like then. And
right. And that's how it was, is you were blamed for being different. It was your fault because you were different. And Matthew's case was the opposite. There was outrage for what happened to him.
Our first stop was Minneapolis, our second stop, I guess, and we picked up our younger son. And there in the airport, on the headlines of the New York Times, was a Wyoming gay student attacked, and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to us.
You got to the hospital and you saw him, and he was in terrible shape.
He was. They snuck us in. We went up to ICU. We weren't even sure it was him because his face was swollen, and but then when we got closer, we could see scars and little marks on his face. And one of his eyes was partially open. We could see color, and he was a beautiful child even then.
And Audacity says, I graduated from a town of 1,800 people in 1994. Nobody cared who was what. Yeah, my town where I grew up was about 1,200, and people cared. I think it's dependent on location, people in the location. But someone had said, now I can't find it, but someone had said, oh, Shauna had said, I know several people that didn't come out till college, and my town was all about diversity. And I feel the same. College was a place where at least I felt I could be who I truly was, because it was so much bigger than high school. There were so many more people than high school. So yeah, yeah. All right, let's see. Okay, so this is a short video from the Associated Press. And the reason I chose to include this is because it has a short clip of an interview with, I believe it was McKinney, and how he feels about what happened 20 years after the event. And there is a documentary that gets more into McKinney and I think it was Anderson that I am going to check out. You can rent or buy it from YouTube. So I am going to rent it and watch it at some point. And so this says, one of the two men convicted of the gruesome crime spoke about the murder in a prison interview with the Associated Press. And again, this was 20 years after Matthew Shepard had been brutally murdered.
Matthew didn't deserve any of this. And I'm so ashamed that I was ever a part of this. He was a human being. He was
Okay, I was mistaken. It's Henderson, not Anderson, and it wasn't McKinney.
son, he was a brother, he was a friend. He had many people that loved him, and his life mattered. And I think about Matthew every single day of my life.
We encourage everyone to atone for what they've done and to act out of kindness for others. And it's my hope that that would include everyone from Matt's assailants through to every other person in society. But it's not our forgiveness he should be seeking. We're really not focused on this case anymore. The jurisprudence on this case has ended. We're focused on the next case, the one we hope we can prevent, the one that doesn't have to happen.
We can be proud that the bell rings even louder now, and each day grows louder still. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless the United States.
Okay. Okay, so this next one again occurred on October 26th, 2018. And so 20 years later, after Matthew was brutally murdered, he was finally laid to rest. And I am going to let this play for a second. I just got notification my groceries were delivered. It's 2 hours late, but they're here, so I will be right back.
21 years Matthew Shepard worshiped in an Episcopal church. Today, the full pews and pageantry at the National Cathedral were all for him.
And Matt, welcome home.
Shepard was brutally attacked in 1998, tied to a fence and left to die, targeted because he was gay. Back then, his family quietly took his ashes home, fearing any burial ground in Wyoming might be vandalized. But when the National Cathedral offered recently to inter his ashes, his parents say it felt right.
Matt loved the church so much. He'll feel at home here. Is it hard? Yes, it is. He's moving away. We had him with us for 20 years, and now he's moving away.
It is a rare honor to be interred in this magnificent space.
Reserved for presidents, and Helen Keller, I think, is behind us.
Yes, that's right. So Matt seems sort of not in that category to us.
Ordinary people, and it's the idea that they could even consider having him here, we thought was an honor.
They say that they...
And the first slide that I had shown you at the start of this live, that was his placard that is located at his gravesite.
They choose people who have made a lasting contribution to humanity.
Pretty big.
Matt did that.
Yes, they think so. Dusty's just Matt.
Months after her son's death, Judy launched a foundation to fight for equal rights, pushed for hate crimes legislation signed by President Obama in 2009. Under the Trump administration, they worry they're losing ground.
We're making such great progress in the civil rights, not just for the gay community, but all the marginalized communities. And now we're just making this giant U-turn, going right back to where we were before.
The only good thing is we know who the haters are because they're out in public now, where before they were hidden.
It's why they're still sharing their son's story.
What do you hope he continues to inspire?
Inclusivity. Matt never understood the need to stereotype people or categorize them. They were just people.
In this sacred space, their son is safe now. Kate Snow, NBC News.
Yeah, and I agree. People are people. We all bleed red.
Remember.
Okay, so this short clip is part of Matthew's service at the National Cathedral, and I wanted to keep this in my presentation because the priest speaks, and I think this is how everyone should feel about anyone. So, yeah, we're going to take a look. Hey, Gina.
Remember before you this day our brother Matthew and all who have lost their lives to violent acts of hate. We pray that the gifts of all your lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer children may be recognized, welcomed, and celebrated in the world and in your church. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Which comes from Reggie Flutie, who that was the good Lord, no doubt in my mind, into something good. The hate crimes bill, the federal hate crimes bill was passed, and it bore not only Matthew's name, but that of James Byrd, the African-American in Texas who was chained and dragged behind a pickup truck until one arm and his head were severed from his body. And the reason we need to remember that is that the bigger picture here is what we human beings tend to do, which is to label someone different from ourselves as other, which is code for not really human, and then you can do anything to them that you like.
They seemed to have died, and their departure was thought to
from the love of Christ.
Violence takes lots of forms. And right now, the transgender community is the target. There are forces about who would erase them from America, deny them the right they have to define themselves. And they need us to stand with them.
And this priest, I would love to know him because he is accepting of everyone, and he's an older generation. Yet he is who I believe represents Christianity. Yes, AMAC. I grew up Catholic as well, and they are very long-winded. And this service was pretty lengthy. You can find the entire service on YouTube as well, but this clip was enough.
That's the kind of transformation today makes possible. To Judy and Dennis and Logan and Marlo, thank you for your generosity in sharing Matt with us. This will be the part where I cry.
Oh my God.
So I have 3 things I want to say to Matt. Gently rest in this place. You are safe now. Oh yeah, and Matt, welcome home. Amen.
And when he said welcome home, when I initially watched this, that's where I lost it. Okay, so just 3 more.
More than 2.
This clip is from June 3rd, 2021, and this is an interview they had with a friend of Matthew's from when he was still alive, and this was from a local news outlet.
2 decades since the death of Matthew Shepard, but the anti-gay hate crime is still having an impact in America. 13 Action News anchor Jackie Kostek spoke with a close friend of Matthew Shepard who says she wants her friend to be remembered as the person he was, not just a symbol.
It was early October 1998.
If I'm putting myself in that place, like it really, the tears come very readily because it was so shocking.
Michelle Josue was in her first college apartment when her sister called. She told her to turn on the news.
Matt had been attacked and he was in a coma and he was beaten like to within inches of his life.
Matt Shepard, the gay college student savagely beaten last week in Wyoming, died this morning.
Michelle was Matthew Shepard's friend.
The world called him Matthew, but we always refer to him as Matt.
Matt and Michelle went to high school together, both in theater. Michelle says they were often paired up together for auditions because of their height. Matt was just 5'2". Michelle remembers Matt as giving and kind, intelligent, with a biting sense of humor and a curiosity about the world. When Michelle knew Matt, he had not come out as gay. But Michelle says when Matt was killed, he almost immediately became the poster child for anti-LGBTQ hate and violence.
And, oh, AMAC, you did the Laramie project in high school? That's one thing I have not seen that I do want to see.
So pissed off. I can't stop crying.
The reasons why, she says, are complex.
Matt was a white, very small, non-threatening looking boy next door, and people saw in him their own sons, their friends, their neighbor. So he touched a nerve across the country, and I would say around the world.
Michelle says Matt Shepard's death woke people up and inspired a generation of advocates for compassion, understanding, and acceptance. Matt Shepard's legacy is cemented in legislation, spearheaded by his parents. When he was killed in 1998, his vicious murder was not considered a hate crime. And in 2004, ABC's 2020 investigated claims that drugs may have played a role in the killing. The killers remain behind bars. But in the years after his death, Shepard's parents made it their mission to expand federal hate crime laws to include sexual orientation. The Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Hate Crimes Prevention Act was signed into law by President Obama in October of 2009. Michelle says while it is an imperfect law, it is important.
It communicates something that, LGBTQ people are worthy of protection and worthy of living in dignity, and without, this tremendous bias and violence that they face a lot.
Michelle says while her friend inspired and affected so much change, she hopes people will see him as more than a symbol, but as a person worthy of life and love.
He was just a young man who had an extraordinary potential, who really struggled in life sometimes, but really had and affected so much joy in all those around him. And it is a true tragedy that he's not with us.
Matt's dad echoing Michelle's words when they found a home for his son's remains 20 years after his death.
Matt
at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C.
was blind, just like this beautiful house of worship. He did not see skin color. He did not see religion. He did not see sexual orientation. All he saw was a chance to have another friend.
Michelle produced a film about Matt's life called Matthew Shepard is a Friend of Mine. You can find more information about that online at MatthewShepardIsAFriendOfMine.com. In October, it will be 23 years since Matthew Shepard was killed, 2 years longer than he lived. His story is still touching hearts and minds and inspiring lasting change. Reporting, Jackie Kostek, 13 Action News.
And that's something to think that he's been gone longer than he was alive. Oh, you've seen it, Shauna? I have. I actually wrote that down because I did find a lot of different videos about that as well, articles about that. So I definitely want to check that out as well. So I have 2 more videos. The last video is very short. This is what reminded me that it's been 25 years since Matthew was murdered. And this interview was just over a week ago on October 19th of this year. And Katie Couric interviewed Matthew's parents 25 years since his death.
I interviewed you all less than 6 months after this happened, and I thought I'd play it for you.
You know, it's one thing to lose a son, but the brutality of this crime and the viciousness, how do you deal with that?
The anger really isn't there yet. I'm sure it'll come, but it's not really there yet. I don't understand how anybody could do that.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember thinking how odd it was that we were here doing this with you, that we're just 2 people who lost a son. I don't think we understand the scope of how big it really was.
In fact, by the spring of 1999, everyone knew the name Matthew Shepard. But to Judy, Dennis, and younger brother Logan, Matthew was just Matt. He loved the theater and watching him play Abraham Lincoln.
The homemade costume was the best, right?
Yeah. This year, he would have turned 46 years old.
Matt would be the age now that I was when we lost him.
What do you think he might be doing?
And that is also why I feel his death was so powerful to me, is because I'm going to be 46 and we are pretty much the same age.
Well, we often talk about how his dream was to be part of the State Department. He was so gifted in languages and really cared about folks he thought had less than they should have had.
Perhaps it was Matthew's trusting nature that made the 21-year-old University of Wyoming student fall prey to two men he had met at a bar in Laramie. Sensing Matthew was gay, they pretended to be gay too and invited him to a party.
On the way, said, we're not going to a party. You're being jacked. Give us your wallet. So they took his wallet, and then they proceeded to beat him, and he had 18 blows to the skull, and then they left him.
It was 18 hours before a bicyclist, thinking at first Matthew was a scarecrow, found him barely alive. I know you have said before that you have never visited the spot where Matt was found.
I haven't. Dennis was.
Why did you want to go there, Dennis?
That's where Matt was. And I keep thinking, what if he was yelling out what was going on, asking for Dad? And I wasn't there. I couldn't do anything. It was just something important to me.
During the 4 days Matthew was in a coma, the story went from a small town tragedy to an international reckoning. People everywhere asking, how could this happen? I didn't realize that Elton John bought out all the flowers in all the flower shops.
He kept calling me. He thought it was a crank call, so we wouldn't accept the call.
But so many acts of kindness followed this horrific thing.
Yeah, 10,000 cards and letters. A lot of parents swearing they would raise their children to be accepting. It was really moving.
His attackers, Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson, were convicted of first-degree murder.
And I'm curious, so Henderson was interviewed by the Associated Press. I'm wondering if McKinney ever spoke to the press or did interviews, because that would be, I'm going to see if I can't find more about that. Or even the girlfriend that had also faced charges.
And sentenced to life in prison. Part of the sentencing agreement prevented them from speaking to the press. But an AP reporter got a hold of Russell Henderson 5 years ago. And he said, quote, I think about Matthew every single day of my life. I think about him in every single one of those days that I've had that he hasn't had. His family hasn't had. His friends haven't had. I'm so, so ashamed I was ever part of this.
Don't believe it for a second.
We differ.
Yeah. And I think, Sinner, you had said the same thing earlier. Unforgivable. And his dad said the same thing. Nope. I don't believe him. Oh, it's okay, Voices. There was a gag order. Yeah, and I must have missed that part when I was watching this earlier. I hadn't realized that.
There. I think without the other guy, Aaron McKinney, Russell would have been fine. He was a follower up until he became involved with McKinney and drugs. He was a good kid, got lost, bad family life. I think he's as much a victim as Matt was.
Matthew's legacy lives on. Judy and Dennis started the Matthew Shepard Foundation to advocate for LGBTQ rights.
Whenever I think about Matthew, I always think about his incredibly beaming smile.
A play called The Laramie Project followed, and later a choral work, Considering Matthew Shepard. In 2009, President Obama, motivated by Matthew's senseless murder, signed the Hate Crimes Prevention Act. But just as they believed real progress was being made, the Shepards are now watching as scores of anti-LGBTQ measures are being considered and enacted across the country. What has your reaction been as you've seen this unfold?
This battle is just the last, most vicious attack on the community. They're fighting a losing battle.
For so long, the Shepards couldn't bury their son for fear his grave would be desecrated. In 2018, his remains were finally interred at Washington National Cathedral, the same place they recently dedicated a devotional portrait of Matthew. He's surrounded by some of the car.
That's so pretty. So pretty. And to think you had to wait 20 years to finally lay your son to rest for fear that his grave would be destroyed or damaged or desecrated.
Cards and letters that you all received.
It's really quite moving.
Got one hand on his heart saying, welcome, welcome, and the other is extended, like, I'm here for you.
Judy and Dennis stay busy with the foundation they started after Matt's death to teach parents of children who may be questioning their sexuality and their gender identity to love and accept them for who they are. They also lecture across the country and around the world to college students, businesses, and law enforcement groups. And they're really sad the fight isn't finished, but according to FBI statistics, hate crimes have increased against LGBTQ people 11%. So clearly a lot more work to be done.
They're so courageous because, you know, they you could understand if they just wanted to go bury their heads and never speak of it again, but they've become such activists. You can tell this passion, but that's a gift that they are continuing to give the world.
Yeah, they are really lovely people. And as I said, I went to the service at National Cathedral when Matthew's remains were interred. It was absolutely beautiful. And I think so many people probably don't remember this story because it happened so long ago, 25 years ago, and they want to make sure that people understand Matthew, what happened to him, in an effort to keep it from happening again.
Listening to his mother talk about the assailant in that in such a way just showed just how big her heart.
Oh, and I didn't mean to cut it off like I did. I thought I had gotten longer. So there is one last clip, but I am going to play that last. So I just want to thank everyone for being here with me tonight. And please share this. Please share Matthew's story. Please let everyone know that he existed and that I'm going to share the foundation again that Dennis and Judy created in memory of Matthew to help those in the LGBTQ plus community. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I should be live tomorrow. And if I don't see you, have a great rest of your night. And until
Where